Welcome to the Cardboard Crashcast. I'm your host, Ethan, with Christos, Anthony, and Adam. Say hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Guten Tag.
We're here with episode 4. It's going to be the Spirit of Commander, something we're all very familiar with. We're a little bit tired because it's late at night, but we are going to show a little bit of our history with the format, a little bit about where we think the format is now, and where we would want it to go in the future. So if you have anything to say, I'd love for you to also add your own comments in the video description if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching on a podcast platform such as Apple Podcasts. Go ahead and give us a review, maybe leave us 5 stars. But if you want to start us off, Christos, how long have you been playing the Commander format?
Lord have mercy. So I've been playing Commander since 2011? Yeah, 2011. My first Commander deck was Mael the Anima. And I think the first experience I ever had with Commander, I was watching a group of people at my LGS playing a format I'd never seen before, and I was like, are you guys playing Two-Headed Giant? Like, what's going on? I thought they were just playing like Standard or something. I look over and like they're all playing like big splashy stuff that's like 7+ mana, and, like things that you would just never play, even in drafts sometimes. I just became infatuated because like suddenly after talking to them for 5 minutes, they're like, yeah, this is a format where you can play all the pack fillers and stuff that you'd like normally would just toss. But now suddenly that 7 mana creature that I literally pass every time in a draft, it's looking pretty good because I could throw it in a deck. Mm-hmm. So what I did was, I think I kind of left it like in the back of my mind for a little while. I'd only ever play Commander if I like borrowed a deck or something. I never built one. But the first Commander deck I ever played was a Mael the Anima deck. It was not my own. It was one of my local guys there that he just was like, yeah, I play this one. So when I saw that Mael was in the C13 or the Commander 13 product, I bought it immediately. So, and I built it right then and there. It was so jank. I was using like the worst cards possible. I barely upgraded it, but it was so fun still. To me, Commander's like spirit as a format is just you get to play all the big splashy stuff. Everybody gets to have basically like their turn, their spotlight, and you do whatever your deck is wanting to do. Then, obviously there's a winner. But I feel like over time, with my time with Commander, as the years have gone by, because that was 10 years ago now, I feel like the game has just progressed to a point where like, you know, in combination with the game changing overall and like mechanics becoming stronger and power creep in general, I suppose is just the kind of like the thought. I think that the game's just kind of gotten to a point where like the Commander that I was introduced to and the Commander I am used to is no longer the Commander that exists now. There's a lot more powerful things, a lot more speedy things. The speed of the format's like through the roof with like stuff like, you know, even Arcane Signet really accelerates a lot of decks because it just gives them access to a mana rock that they didn't have otherwise. Not to mention like Jeweled Lotus, etc., just cards like that. So just to close my thoughts on it, I don't want to say I necessarily have like a negative opinion on Commander currently, but I definitely come from an era where Commander is about just playing the cards that you wouldn't play otherwise.
Mm-hmm. I think that we can all give a little bit of a different insight. So I do want to move on to Anthony. What's your first experience with Commander, and where do you feel like a base level of your idea of its health nowadays?
My first experience was, if I remember correctly, was around Amonkhet, and I remember building. My Commander was Sigarda, and I just put in the biggest green and white creatures I could find. And that was it. There was no strategy to the deck. And those games, I remember lasting probably 2 hours long. And back then, I think that was like the peak of fun for Commander. It was just like long games and everyone getting to play what they wanted, their big splashy spells. And it's pretty simple, pretty, nothing too crazy. I think just Commander has evolved into a game that's much different now. It's not like that. It's a lot faster, and the big splashy spells usually in the game. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I just think you got to find the right pod to do that in. Some people might not like it, and then maybe you should play budgets decks or I don't know. I don't think it's in a bad spot. I just believe you got to find the right people to play with, and or maybe limit yourself. Maybe that would be more fun for you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's all I got really.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree that it's different nowadays than it was. How about you, Adam? What's your first experience with Commander? It's a little more recent than the rest of us.
When I first got into the game, it was just 60 card. I didn't know anything about Commander. And I don't even recall anyone when I was like younger playing it. Like all my friends and like scouts and stuff still played 60 card 1-on-1. So it was like completely new to me, and it was you who brought it up. You're like, there's a format where you play with your commander, and it's like super fun. And I can't remember how many months it was in when we decided to jump into it.
I have to imagine it was probably maybe half a year, 6 months into it.
I think Commander Legends was just coming out because I recall. Actually, no. You bought the Kaldheim.
Kaldheim Commander. I bought both of them.
And
yes. And
Commander Legends was after or before after.
It was after Kaldheim.
Yeah. So I think that's when we were definitely starting to look into it. You had bought that pre-con, but that wasn't your first deck. You made your Izzet coin flipping deck and stuff, which was fun, but also we realized later on that it takes a long time and it
janky.
Yeah, it's janky and it takes the fun away from everyone else because, like Christos was saying, the idea of Commander, which was cool, is you could play with more people now. It wasn't the same repetitive 60-card deck that we were playing every time. Mm-hmm. You know, you start metagaming and it's like, oh, this person's 60-card deck is just so much better. The thing I like a lot about Commander when we were playing is, you get to play one of each card. You get to have that card that the deck is based around, so you get to have more of a theme, and you can kind of have more opportunity to cover all of your bases. So, like, you can have plenty of interaction and board wipes and ramp and stuff like that.
Right.
Where if you're playing a 60-card deck, your 60-card deck might have zero interest in ramp and zero interest in this and that. So it's much easier, I feel like, for 60-card decks to kind of, like... You have to think about that in more of, like, a tournament setting or something. Like, when we were playing all the time, it was just like, yeah, your discard deck just completely destroys my 60-card deck that I'm playing. Like, there's nothing I can do about it unless I just hard counter you. I think, obviously, it's still very plausible for that to happen in Commander. A Commander could be completely useless against another one, but I think there's more opportunity, and it depends more on your draws because you have one of each, but we'll kind of divulge a little more into that, I presume.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to give a little bit. I realized that maybe some of you listening don't have a full grasp of the difference between a constructed format like we were talking about and the Commander format. So if you're listening for the first time or you're supporting the podcast outside of knowing a lot about Magic, the standard deck is built up of 60 cards, and you can have 4 of each name of card. This gives a really consistent way of play. In the Commander format, instead you choose a single creature, and that can sit outside of your deck that you can cast at any time, which makes it very, very reliable, but also you can only have 1 of every other card. So instead of having 4 ofs that make it really consistent, you have 100 other cards that are all singleton. So in a way, it's a lot more consistent of a way of play, and in a way, it's a lot less consistent. Another thing about Commander is that it brings a lot more people together. I feel like yes, you can play 2 versus 2 with 60 cards constructed, but Commander is inherently built around the idea of playing with a 4-player pod, all multiplayer, free-for-all. So that's an interesting difference, is that it can include more people. So that's where I think Adam and I's original idea of Commander came from, outside of the constructed formats, is because we wanted to include everybody in the same game. So that can kind of extend into my original.
Yeah, I think what ended up happening was we were also just getting maybe a little bored of the 60 card.
Just playing the same games.
Yeah.
So did you play Commander prior to introducing it to Adam, or did you guys get into it together?
So I had played Commander prior. I had played Commander a few years before ever getting Adam into the format.
With your own deck?
With my own deck, yes. My own deck was a pretty much pre-con. I played against a player who would consistently play a really janky Phage the Untouchable deck, where it's a card where if you cast it from anywhere other than your hand, you lose the game. So he would just basically do a modern-day Beantown Bullies effect where it enters the battlefield under somebody else's control and makes them lose, or he would just play Command Beacon and try his hardest to actually play her. I played a mono red burn that was very similar to a constructed deck that I loved. It revolved completely around some janky, I think it was constructed for me. It was the Heartless Hitotsugu, but it wasn't actually doing the combo. It was just tapping to cut people's lives in half and also burning them at the same time. Later on, we had a friend who played with Heartless Hitotsugu, and he was just doing Chaos Stupidity, but it was definitely a different time back then. Now, Adam and I had been playing, like we had said, constructed formats before that, and I eventually just said, hey, this Call Time Precon is coming out. It looks really interesting. Would you mind trying it with me? And we ended up building our own decks, like he was saying. He built Arcades? No. Mimeoplasm.
Well, it was Brokos, because I wanted to do an Infect and Mutate deck.
Right.
So he was just a Sultai commander that just could mutate onto something, and you can mutate from the graveyard, so you didn't have to worry about like commander attacks. And it was just like play some garbage little infect creature and mutate onto it. So it was like a 6/6 with trample. Wasn't anything crazy. That's what I want to do. It's like, man, I want to make like a fun infect mutate thing, but that can't really work in a 60 card deck. I can throw this idea into a 100 card commander deck, and it will be a lot more fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my idea of Commander is that it brings more people together at the same time. It allows you to play the things that would not be intended to be played with together. And instead of it being designed for, it's taken as, like, from the community, it's taken away from the hands of the company that's making this game, and it's allowing them to do something stupid on their own. Because originally, and I think we can kind of expand on this altogether, one of the main points that I wanted to make in this episode is that Commander used to be something that was accidental. In my opinion, the only format that was designed for a very long time was Standard. This was all the way from Alpha up to, I don't know, by the time probably 2013 when they started making modern sets.
Yeah, whenever the original Masters set, Modern Masters 1, I think was 2011 or 12.
Okay, and then it wasn't until 13 that they made the first Commander set? Or am I mistaken?
No, Commander's Arsenal was, I think, 2011.
So from 1993 to 2011, all they did was Standard. And every other format was accidental. You're designing for this one specific rotating format, and then people will take those and just happen to make them work in other formats. So a constructed format where you can play 60 cards constructed against, any cards ever made in Magic, or this Commander format where you can just take some janky legendary creature, which was very, very low in frequency back then, and just make a fun, stupid deck out of them. So for a very long time it was like that, and I think since 2011, when they started making those Commander Arsenal, Commander Precons, they've sort of switched their design vision and actually realized that this format is popular.
I think another thing to note is that with the elimination of MSRP, they basically just like increased the power of a Precon by 10 times.
Right, because a Precon used to be just a janky mess of cards. Like if you go back to 2011, 2012, all the way up until probably 2014, Precons, it was just, it was fun. Like it mirrored what the decks were at the time, which was stupid fun. And it was not meant to have a perfect curve and all of this.
Playing with what you have.
Right.
That's what it was. And that's why the power was so low. And generally speaking of the Precons.
Because they were trying to mirror the exact fun that people were having.
And they also had MSRP, so they're not going to, throw in a Primeval Titan when it just went out for printing and do a Precon.
Well, what were the original prices of Precons?
I want to say they were 20.
I think they were 35.
35 was what they came out of the gate with?
I think it was 35, but it's been so long since I bought one.
Well, some Precons, I remember with Commander Legends, those decks were like $20.
Yeah, so the Commander Legends decks were 20. The Call Time Commander decks were 20. For some reason. I don't know if it was because the format was struggling or...
the decks aren't that crazy. Obviously, AC was one of the Precon ones. And I almost got that deck, too. I almost got that deck. I should have, because AC is $20 herself or himself. I don't even know what AC is.
Yeah, and Lathril is sitting around the $85 mark for that pre-constructed deck when it was sold at $20 originally. So yeah, I think it's definitely gone up in expected value over the years.
I'm trying to find it, man. $29.99 MSRP.
Okay.
And that's Commander 2013. So
Maybe it was
now
30.
now they're like whatever, right? Like they vary in price wildly.
Yeah, so the Commander Masters precons, which a lot of people say are not that, like they're slightly above, but they're not that far above a normal Commander deck. They're sitting around twice as much as like an average Commander deck nowadays. So like around the $80 to $85 mark.
And I guess something also to note, kind of what you were talking about earlier, like we played with legendary creatures as our commanders that were not designed for Commander.
Right.
We grabbed whatever we thought was like, hey, I'm going to play with this legendary creature. Because that's the original idea behind EDH, right? Elder Dragon Highlander. You played with the Elder Dragons originally.
Yeah.
And then it transitioned into any legendary
You want to
creature.
give a little bit more history on that?
I'm not sure if I'm the authority on it, but I'll tell you this. So the original Elder Dragons, I believe there's 9 of them. I might be wrong.
I want to say there's only 5.
I know that
in the original cycle.
they were all 3 colors.
Mm-hmm.
And you can choose from one of those dragons and build a deck around them. And the decks change, obviously, based on the color combination. And that is it.
And that's where the color identity came from.
And that is strictly how people build decks. Is like, I wanted to build green, white, blue. I pick Arcades back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was always one of those few dragons. And so you it wasn't just any legendary creature. It was one of those 5 or however many dragons. And you built with just those colors. And they were all 7/7s. And if you hit an opponent 3 times with your commander, they lost the game. And that's where the 21 commander damage comes from. And it's why it's called EDH. Since then, obviously, it's been expanded upon. I think that the format was always intended to be exactly what your playgroup wants it to be. It was never supposed to be sanctioned. And that's where the rules committee took over, which the rules committee is a separate entity to Wizards of the Coast. It's completely, Anthony's giving me like quotes. Separate entity to them.
I wanted to mention this too. I'm sorry to interject.
It's okay.
When the rules committee was originally like established, it wasn't really like what it is today. It was like, I think like 5 people at most.
Mm-hmm.
And they would not ban cards often. And when they did, they gave like a good reasoning behind it. And when they unbanned stuff as well. And to your point about what you said earlier, this was a format designed by the players for the players, with WotC completely like hands off. As the years progressed, I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, and Commander became more and more popular, and WotC has put their hands on it way more than 10 years ago. Now they're printing cards that mention Commander in the text, in the description.
What was the first one?
Command Tower, I believe.
Was it Command Tower? Did Command Tower and Arcane Signet come out at the same time?
No.
Arcane Signet was Throne of Eldraine. That was Brawl.
Yeah.
That was made for Brawl.
For Brawl.
Really? Arcane Signet came out in Throne of Eldraine?
So originally, the closest thing you could have gotten was Felwar Stone.
That's
Felwar Stone
crazy.
is still goated.
It's great.
Okay, so...
But like, I feel like ever since... It's crazy, because that's when I quit, right? Ever since Throne of Eldraine, I don't know what the heck's going on, but they're like, we're going to slap Commander on everything. But there was also Commander Sphere was printed a little prior to Throne, and Commander Sphere was like...
Command Beacon also.
Command Beacon.
Command Beacon was one of the originals.
No.
I want to say.
C14.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in...
I was definitely not playing Commander before then, so that's why I feel that way.
It was in the Planeswalker precons.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the 5 Planeswalker precons.
Command Beacon is the one where you can tap it and put the commander into your
sack
hand.
it. Yeah.
From the command zone, so get around that tax.
But what I'm getting at, I'm sorry.
That was never intended to be the case, was that cards mentioned Commander.
No, WotC really was like, all right, well, how do we really sell this product to people, I think? And they were like, well, we got to just make it so that the precons have, like, some basic stuff as a kickoff point. So that's why they put Command Tower in all the decks, Soul Ring in all the decks. Is Arcane Signet in every deck now?
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, and probably ever since Brawl, right?
Well, when Brawl came out, it was like the only way to get it was the Brawl deck, and it was like super expensive. I think you might have also been able to get it in the collector packs for Throne of Eldraine. I'm not sure.
How about Commander's Sphere?
Commander Sphere is in everything.
It's in everything.
Yeah.
So I feel like basically I know when
So
Command Tower came out.
Those 4 cards. So those
not
three
Beacon.
cards.
Three
not
cards,
Beacon.
yeah.
Those 3 cards are in every Commander Precon, aside from like
I don't think Sphere is anymore.
a couple. But Commander Sphere is just okay.
Yeah, I would put it like I give it like a B rating.
Uh-huh.
In terms of like
If we want to say C is average, yeah,
today's
it's
standard.
still above average.
yeah, I mean I would definitely play it over like a Darksteel ingot, whatever the heck that thing's called.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to be like a staple. Like you play that in every deck because we didn't have an Arcane Signet, and not every deck could run rocks. And if they did run rocks, you need that thing to be indestructible because back in the day, board wipes were like you play like 5, like everyone did. That's just, like you just had to because the idea of the format was like
Very little interaction other than just
we
clearing.
wipe the board or nothing. Like
Right.
like there wasn't like all this spot removal that
I
exists
remember
today.
that. I remember that because those first games that I played, there was always that white player, and he would have 10 board wipes, and no one else would have any interaction, and we would all be pleased with like.
Do you have it? Do you have
Do
the
you
board
have
wipe?
it?
Yeah.
Do you have one in your hand? Because none of us have any way to do anything about any of this. It was fun. It was stupid. It was definitely different without all of this, like without the precons coming out all the time. So they did for a while, starting in 2011. They did a commander set every single year, and that already felt like a lot to a lot of players. Where instead of just having instead of just having like your jank cards, you're actually printing cards for Commander once a year. So that went all the way up until something around 2018, 2019. They started doing Commander sets for Commander precons and Commander sets within the sets every single standard release, and then now they're doing it for every like release in general, even for
Universes Beyond.
Universes Beyond.
Yeah.
Now they have Commander precons that don't even have a set attached to them. It's just the precon set.
I will say it feels bad, man, for the Transformers. That would have been really cool to have precons for those cards.
Yeah, instead of them just being a bonus sheet within Brothers War.
I mean, Jurassic Park isn't going to have precons.
That's kind of sad.
But half the cards are designed for Commander anyway.
I don't care what you guys say until they come out with a Warhammer 40k set. It's just nothing will ever peak it. All right, Warhammer 40k commander set. That's what I need.
Oh, like an actual draftable set.
Well,
I'd like to draft one.
I mean, I just a set. I don't care what people do with it. I just want more Warhammer 40k cards. I think they're way more interesting than every other thing that they've done with the
Universes Beyond.
Yeah, I don't think anything is like when they came out with Warhammer 40k. I was extremely interested. I was like probably only one of the few times I actually cared about the spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. They're sleeping.
Yeah. So do you? I want to ask all of you, what do you think was the precipice of change? Do you think that it was more recent with the lockdown and everything, or do you think that this was all going to happen one way or another?
Hasbro.
The Hasbro, like when Hasbro took over, was it because
this is a Hasbro business move. I'm not saying Wizards is like completely clear of everything. I'm just saying this is 100% a Hasbro move. This is what they do with their toys. This is what they do with just anything, really. Like, I mean, this is just Hasbro. So,
what do you mean by that exactly?
Hasbro just tries to capitalize on things that they can capitalize on. That's so obviously, if, Doctor Who. If they can somehow get a Doctor Who, which they did, then they'll do Doctor Who. They have Transformers. Which I agree. I don't know why they didn't do a whole set. They can. It's Hasbro. Hasbro owns like the whole Transformer thing, so they could quite literally do a whole set if they wanted to. I think they were probably a little scared to do a whole set. That's probably the only thing I think of. Maybe they didn't think it.
Because they test the waters with Universes Beyond with Dungeons and Dragons, even though that wasn't Universes Beyond at the time. They still consider that in universe.
I think the Dungeons and Dragons was a great.
Yeah, they don't consider Dungeons and Dragons and then Battle for Baldur's Gate. They don't consider those Universes Beyond because technically the lore is that your session of D&D is a multiverse within Magic. Yeah, so
I don't even think the D&D was a Hasbro move. I think that was more of a Wizards move. simply because that's their
own
yeah,
property.
their
That's
own
Wizards
property.
of the
yeah.
Coast, and that's their baby.
And I like the D&D sets.
Mhm.
I think they should do more of those.
I don't remember there being a huge uproar at all for the Dungeons and Dragons.
You know, I have
It was
no.
almost like a inevitability.
I'm going to say this is I don't want to say it as a counter to Anthony necessarily, but I think that I have no problem with any Universes Beyond as long as the cards are designed well and they're designed not heavy-handedly. Like
Mhm.
not like I'm not going to put I'm not going to slap what's his name Jeff Goldblum on a card and make sure that he's like the most powerful Magic card in that set.
Right.
You know, like I just like it's cool that Jeff Goldblum's on a card. I don't need more than that. I think that's cool.
Right. So what do you think of the health of Universes Beyond in terms of Commander products specifically? You think that's added too much? Because they have to sell these products in order to make these companies money back.
I want to hear Adam's take first because he's a newbie. Because I am just a grouchy old bitch. So
Yeah, so
I'm curious myself.
Star is our editor. First of all, check the description if you want to get in touch with him. But Star, can you go ahead and throw up the card Old Fogey on screen? Because Christos is definitely hitting that mark.
oh yeah, for sure.
What is it? 20 Black Lotuses and 20 Plague Rats. That's what Magic was designed to be.
That's right.
It's right on the bottom of the
That's
card.
right.
Anyway.
I don't know, because the thing is, I don't particularly like unnecessary crossovers with things. You know, I don't like. I mean, they just announced Marvel. I'm not a big Marvel fan, so like, part of me wants to be like, I don't care about it, and I can understand a lot of like long-term players get the feeling of like, dude, I want in-universe versions of cards and stuff. It does get kind of ridiculous, right? Where it's like, yeah, I'm playing my Starscream, and you know, I have and that triggers my Optimus Prime, and you're over there with your Pip-Boy, and then you've got your like Warhammer dude, and then over there you've got like, you know, Rick Steadfast Leader, and you got like a, you know, his Lucy Bat or whatever. I don't like. You just have all this other random stuff, and it's just weird. It's kind of like Fortnite as well, where it's just like you're just overloaded with like pop culture references, and it's just like, what am I even playing with? Like, I want like more like uniform stuff,
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of prefer the in-universe versions.
I will add to that because I don't hate Universes Beyond. To preface this, I'm a huge Marvel fan. I'm actually a fan of a lot of the Universes Beyond products that they've been using. But one thing that I do not like about it is when they rename a card with something else. Because instead of me knowing exactly what that card is just by looking at it across the table with a lot of Magic's history that I can do, they're now coming out with a Jeff Goldblum card. I forget the name of his character in Jurassic Park, but it's Atlapalani Nest Tender, which has been a Magic card for a long time. I know what Atlapalani does, but they're reprinting Atlapalani as Jeff Goldblum, and it says right big on the top of the card whatever his character's name is, and then right below it in really tiny text it says Atlapalani. I'm not going to be able to keep up with all of this. I didn't know that they made a lightning bolt that's really just Hadouken from Street Fighter. I saw that the other day. I was like, what are you hitting me with? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that works better for like if you're playing, I don't know, like Arena or something. It's just like a skin. I just find it distracting.
This definitely is a byproduct of Fortnite. All of it.
You think that the Universes Beyond specifically, or like them hitting the multiplayer format so hard is?
Yeah, I think it's actually detached from Commander. I think it is actually because even like, but I think the first time they did something like this, I might be wrong, but is when they did the Optimus Prime and Godzilla card in like one of the unsets.
It wasn't an unset. It was a
Ikoria.
reskin in Ikoria. It was essentially like the new bonus.
No,
sheets.
there was like an Optimus Prime in one of the unsets. Was there not? It's like
Oh, I have no idea.
No. The first time they did it was
In Brothers War.
Secret
that?
Life. It was Secret Life in like 2017 or something.
Yeah.
It was essentially like a From the Vault or like a Secret Lair. Sorry, not Secret. Anyway, it was a charity event for My Little Pony. Ponies the Galloping was, I think, the first crossover.
They were silver bordered too.
They were silver bordered. You couldn't play with them. It was My Little Pony for what is that called? You're looking it up now. But that was their first like foray into it.
I'm not gonna find it, man. I don't even know what I'm looking for. But,
If you talk about the Transformers, I'm pretty sure those are just the Brothers War exclusively.
I swear there was an Optimus Prime card here. I'm just gonna
I
tell
mean,
you.
maybe it was like referencing like it, but it wasn't
The-
obviously a
or
collaboration.
one of the unsets also did have the Swords of Dungeons and Dragons.
Which could
which
easily be a
reference-
sword now. It doesn't even like not fit because rolling dice is actually a common thing now.
But I think that's back then.
It was
Testing.
a media promo for the Gathering, Magic the Gathering HasCon, and there was 3 promos: the Sword of Dungeons and Dragons, a Grimlock, sorry, not Optimus Prime, and Nerf War.
Oh, I remember Nerf War.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And
I
it was Hasbro products.
And I remember
they were reskins, right? No,
no, they were separate
They were
cards.
uncards.
Yeah,
They were-
that's why I was saying it's from
Yeah,
an unset.
non-tournament legal cards. Gotcha.
And I think so. They did that because those are all their IPs, right? They own all those things.
Yeah, right.
So I think that initial.
I think they did Ponies the Galloping not too far after.
To be honest, I have no idea because I would not have even given it a second look. Nothing against those people that like that stuff. It's just like I would look at it and be like, moving on. But I will say, right around like Fortnite blew up in like 2017, right? 2016, 17, right?
Yeah.
So shortly thereafter, I'm sure someone somewhere, some new kid on the block, it was pitching an idea to some board member or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What if we did crossovers and stuff like that? I'm sure that's like where this all started. I know we're getting very detached from the main idea of like this whole episode.
It's okay.
But I think that while I agree with Adam, I'm not going to love every one of these universes beyond, and sometimes they seem a little unnecessary. They seem a little detached.
Mm-hmm.
Like The Walking Dead and what is that show on Netflix that they did like
Stranger
Oh,
Things.
Stranger Things.
I was like, man, I don't know. I'm just like,
I do think that they put a lot of effort into Lord of the Rings. They put a lot of effort into
Super cool.
Warhammer. And I even think they put a lot of effort into Doctor Who. As little as I personally know or put a lot of time caring into Doctor Who, I'm looking at these cards, I'm like, this definitely represents some, care that went into this product.
I'm like low-key happy about them doing Universes Beyond for the Commander decks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not happy that they come out with every single set. they're in every single set.
Oh, like within, like bonus sheets within.
Yeah,
the
like
normal
what's
sets.
the newest set that came out?
Jurassic Park is in Rivals of Ixalan.
No.
No, that's not what I'm talking
Lost
about. I'm
Cavern
saying
Ixalan.
like March of the Machine has Commander decks, right?
Yes.
And so does Brothers War, and so does Kamigawa.
Oh, you're not happy with the commander decks
No,
coming out
I think
with every set.
the cadence is too often. I think that it kind of diminishes the importance of having a precon.
So, I think we said in a previous episode, but it's 29 commander decks this year that have been announced so far, including the Secret Lair ones. And that means, I was looking, there's at least 2 or 3 +1/+1 counter and ramp precons. And they all have a slightly different flavor, but it's all like 1/1 counters and ramp to the specific set. I don't really understand how many we could possibly need.
Hey, well, they just showed off the Ixalan ones today, and the Simic one is a Merfolk, who's like Merfolk tribal but Explore tribal. So it's all about.
So it's
exploring
+1/+1
with-
counters and ramp, but with a different flavor.
But you're exploring.
That's
so,
exactly what
That's
Exactly my point.
Yeah, but your commander is like, it's going to be like similar, okay? Like you're going to have like Simic decks are going to do Simic things, right? They're going to ramp and they're going to draw cards. They're going to put some counters on things, but it's just doing it slightly differently, right? Oh well, why play?
I'm just saying that was the old mechanic from the last Ixalan set. That's nothing new.
Yeah,
It's not new. It's
Yeah.
it's literally just +1/+1
Yeah.
counter ramp in a different flavor.
But
that's
it's a-
happened 3 times.
it's a
before this year.
commander that you can, if you want to be a hyper specific Explore deck, you can have a Explore deck with a
You don't-
face commander for that.
That's okay.
I-
That's perfectly okay. I'm just saying, it's very with the amount that they push out, they all feel like they overlap a lot.
I think maybe Christos was making this point. It takes away from the set. They can honestly just throw it in the set, and you can have half a brain and see, hey, there's a legendary creature in the set. I can make a commander deck out of. There's so many legendary creatures in every set that I'm sure no one bats an eye at. One, because they're not in the precon, or maybe they don't even relate to the precons that come out. So You don't know any of the precon.
Someone do the math really quick. How many cards do you get in a draft box? You want
How many pack? 36 packs?
36 times 15?
Not including the token, right?
Okay, so
14.
they can sell you a Commander Precon, which is, so it's 504.
That's times 14.
Yeah, 504 for about $100.
Yeah.
They can sell you 504 cards for $100, or they can sell you 100 cards for $40.
And you get to draft the box.
Mm-hmm. So the only reason why they do precons is because they can sell you less cards for more money. I completely agree with you. If I would be so happy if they just put the commanders into the set and let you do it on your own and figure it out. I built this deck instead of like, you could still do the commander precons once a year to give people a starting point, but
I agree with Adam's point, but I also agree with Anthony's point. So while I think it's nice to have a nice place to be like, oh, I saw that card spoiled, or I opened it in a pack, and then it's like the face of a commander deck or something like that. I think that's really cool. You're like, oh, I don't even have to do any of the work. It's already made for me. I can just go buy it and play it. That's cool. But on the other hand, the original Spirit of Commander is even if you did buy that one precon a year back in the day, you bought like the Brea precon that's like an artifact deck in 4 colors. Every time you see a new artifact spoiled in a new set, you get jazzed because you're like, I wonder if I could put that in the deck. And I feel like that's lost because now it's like you don't get to think about that. It's already in the deck because it's already in the precon.
Right. It's in the deck. It's in the precon. They also make cards specifically because they know there's this many Lathril players out there. So they're going to make a card that just perfectly goes. It's an elf that perfectly goes in the black.
That's
green.
not always true, though, because sometimes they have some dookie, made for commander designs.
No. It is very true, specifically with a set that comes out. So if they come out with a new set, they'll have 2 precons, whatever they put out. But they'll also put out, I don't know, it's like this card belongs in your precon that you bought. And you need to buy it, or you need to buy packs. Like, obviously,
right.
They do it on purpose because it's very formulaic. It's every set. It's I remember, I bought the Streffin precon. You want Olivia. Why would you not want Olivia in your vampire deck? It fits perfectly into those colors. You get your vampires back. The spirits. They do it every set.
It's definitely very particular. They make the commander decks and they have specific cards for those decks. I think it's great because it gives them the opportunity to, make cards that would be too good for standard that they can make that are themed around the plane that they're on. So I think it's not an inherently bad thing because I think there's a lot of good where it's like they have a lot more creative freedom to do in the commander decks, and they can make interesting new mechanics and kind of themes. But yeah, they do definitely make, I don't know, let's just go to Ixalan, for example. There's going to be some dinosaurs in the new set that you're going to want that definitely aren't going to be in the commander deck. So it's like you buy the commander deck, then you buy some of the set too, or you buy some of the set and you're like, well, maybe I buy the commander deck and then I can put it all together.
Right.
It's definitely designed for you to pretty much take a bit and piece of everything, and that's definitely intentional.
I think that as somebody that is coming back to the game now, I don't think it's inherently a bad thing, but I also feel like at the same time I don't want Wizards touching my format because every format that they touch just dies.
Okay, so
and I feel like I'm really afraid for Commander because power creep is happening. I was actually discussing this with Anthony earlier today. I feel like, and the more they print cards for Commander, the more the power goes up. I feel like
because it's an eternal format.
You're right, made for Commander, and now they're
you can power creep standard, but you can always rest easy knowing it'll rotate out.
And I'm going to take a step back and just talk maybe about some tinfoil hat stuff that I don't know if the rules committee even exists anymore. From what I've heard and what I see, I just seen some of the cards that they print for Commander seem like it's almost WotC holding the hand of the rules, or holding the rules committee and being like, no, it's okay. Don't worry. They're going to buy these cards or something like that. And I feel like we're at a point where we're getting the power up, which is not necessarily a bad thing because people are interested in playing fast Magic. I get it. People love to play that sort of Magic. But I feel like Commander as an idea and as a old format, the format that I was introduced to and familiar with, that format I feel like is more or less I don't want to say dead, but it's definitely like not the same.
No,
I feel
it's
like
not the same.
there's almost like a hard cut. I feel like we almost need to cut it into two different formats.
It would be like maybe what you're used to playing would be like more of almost like a 5 or 6 deck now, where it's just like there's just better stuff.
So would you want a different format, or would you want people to continue governing themselves and just saying, I'm playing a low power this time, can we all do this? I just think it's really hard to govern yourself when you're just showing up randomly at game stores and you don't know the people in advance.
I don't agree with that because Commander was born that way.
Governing yourself?
Commander was governed by a rules committee that was posting on a blog website or forum, and then they eventually made their own website. Now, I'm saying that Pioneer is a really good example, right? People that were playing Modern, they were like, Modern is ridiculous, right? I don't want to play this version of Magic. I want to go back to my roots and play what I'm used to.
Yep.
So then you have a group of players that literally do exactly what you're describing, right? They govern themselves. They make a whole list. They start banning things. They change the format and they make a whole separate format. Now, I'm not saying that that's what needs to happen. I'm saying that if that were to happen, I'd be very comfortable going to a format with a lot more bans because I don't have a problem with Sol Ring getting banned. We all built decks without a Sol Ring. Game doesn't change too much. It just, more or less, I feel like it's more enjoyable.
It makes it more consistent, whereas one person doesn't just like jump
Speed ahead,
basically take an extra turn spell.
And I'm sure there's like a lot of information out there about like Sol Ring and all the baloney behind it, but I think that in general, if there were to be a situation where they cut like a whole separate format for us and made a whole different ban list where they just started like, this is banned, this is banned, this is banned, anything with the name Commander on it, not legal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be interested.
I would be interested too.
But the thing is, the restrictions of the format is just like no one's enforcing it. You can. That's the whole point of like rule zeroing stuff.
So yeah,
okay. Now we're on this.
That's what I wanted to say. Who's they, and why can't they be us?
Right. What you're detailing would be like you're going to a game store and you're going to play with random people. You should expect to see all the stuff that you're probably not the biggest fan of. You can't go to a game store anymore and just expect people to have some janky deck that's just all their leftover cards from draft. I'm kind of thinking of it like video games, right? People have a lot of nostalgia for early shooters and online video games. And now it's like, oh, every person you play against is like a sweaty tryhard. They're super good at the game. They play the game all day. Some people play it for a living and stream it. It's not fun anymore, right? Like, people have just gotten so good at video games that like you want to go back to just the things the way they used to be, but it's never going to be like that anymore. Just like people have evolved over time. I feel like some of that translates over to like Magic, right? Like people have gotten better at the game. There's new cards to mess with. They've gotten better at optimizing things. Yes, 100%. They're definitely adding new cards into the format that are power creepy and meant for the format and designed for it, which you could argue are way stronger than anything that you had to work with before. Yeah, you're like it's just locked in time. Like you're never going to be able to get that feeling back unless you do rule zero and make the rules up ahead of time and say like cards after this date are like banned, that you can't use them. You can still do that. It's just you can't expect it at a game store, you know?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like you're not going to be able to find. I know we said this in the last episode. Go look up events in our area. It's all Commander events. So what's stopping somebody online somewhere on Reddit, wherever it might be, being like, hey guys, I made this new format if you guys want to give it a shot? And what if that gets traction? And what if now that's how we got here in the first place? What's stopping somebody, even us, like you said?
Does it take something this drastic to make you feel like your commander is back? Would it take something that drastic, or do you feel like you could just make little adjustments here and there, like our budget decks, and feel like it's back to normal?
You know, initially I thought that Brawl was going to be that way when it first was announced.
Standard Commander?
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, so this is kind of like almost I get to take everything I draft from Standard and now take all the jank and all the cards I wouldn't play in Standard because it's too fast of a format. Now I get to play it in Brawl. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, cool. But Brawl never really got traction. And I think it was because WotC was the one that was sanctioning it. And WotC was like heavy-handedly pushing it. I mean, I don't even think we could play Commander. Do you play Commander on Arena, Anthony?
You can play Brawl.
Well, Brawl also came out with Throne, and that was just before COVID, so it definitely didn't help.
I think the problem with Commander on Arena is there's no form of communication.
Yeah.
And I think you need that. And
Commander is
game.
100% a social game.
Yeah.
So
Politicking,
I almost want to touch on the bigger aspects of Commander. Magic is a one person wins. This is a very competitive game. People are constantly pushing to be more and more and more and more competitive. Commander steps outside of that because it's like drafting Conspiracy, where you're more just having a stupid fun time with people. There's decks that don't even rely on actually like winning to win. They just pillow fort and they just let everybody else fight and they just, wait it out, and then they have 40 more life than the person who's remaining. But I don't know, I wanted to touch on sort of the overall spirit of the format, like the multiplayer aspect, like just like how it's different than other formats.
I mean, I think it's a great format. It's my favorite format. I
Still,
enjoy,
even though it's changed.
I enjoy Commander a lot. I think it's changed. I'm going to disagree with Adam. I don't think players have gotten better. I think they're still dumb. I think some are still smart. Most are still dumb. And no offense to anyone out there, it's a complicated game. To
your credit or to their not credit, whatever you want to say, it's a lot of stuff to remember, man.
It is a lot of cards to remember. There's a lot of stuff to remember. Mechanics. Yeah. It is. You don't want to be like losers like Christos and I, where we're just like we know all this stuff. I've played the game for a long time, and I enjoy Commander the most as a format because to me I think it's the most unique. I think it's definitely accelerated and as far as power level goes. And I agree with Christos. I think bans there should be a different format where there's bans or something like that. Because I disagree with you, Ethan, about power spiking standard. I think it is in a terrible place. I still think it is right now. They instead of banning Shieldred, they banned the cards that were problematic with it rather than banning the actual problem itself.
Well, look at every format. They ban things that help the evoke elementals in Modern instead of just banning the problem itself because they're trying to sell products.
I've never... Yeah, I agree. I'm sure you're right with Modern. I have no idea. I don't even know that format. I assume they don't ban Shieldred because it still sells.
Which is why the rules committee doesn't exist anymore. Because they come out with, Commander Legends and it has 1,000,001 busted cards, or they come out with Ikoria that just adds so much power to the format in places that it shouldn't. And the only thing that the rules committee gets to ban is Lutri, that specifically does not work in the Commander format.
I mean, there's a lot of questionable things.
There's definitely hey, we're making a ton of money off of this. Can you please cool it down on the bans for the next, forever?
Yeah.
Or they're like, I think, I don't want to target Adam here, but I'm going to call you out.
Oh, bring it on.
So I think that because you are newer to the world of Magic, you do not understand maybe some of the logistics behind the way that WotC does things. I mean, okay, listen, I love WotC in some regard. They got some scummy practices, and that's just a matter of fact. And I think that it is less about, what you were saying about how, they need to be pushing the formats forward and having it be more accessible, all that stuff, and giving people options, giving people entry points. I think it's less about that because I feel like it's kind of like sugarcoating the issue of they are heavy-handedly even telling the people that made this format, hey, just let this print run happen a few more times, and then maybe after that, then you can ban it once we sold all of our product. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah, of course.
And because of that, now knowing that, because I think that's something that they even did back in the day. There's cards that were left in the format unchecked for years. And then they're like, oh, well, we're going to actually... I remember when Painter Servant got unbanned, it was immediately reprinted. Immediately.
Mm-hmm.
What, Kaladesh?
I believe so. Let me double check when I'm talking about
as an invention.
I just want to...
But that invention was worth $0, and then unbanned, now worth $100 whatever dollars.
It's a pretty sick artwork, though.
I'm not saying yes or no to it. I'm just saying it's
they definitely do things intentionally, yeah.
They almost seem like they're in tandem.
They're injecting power into every single format at just enough for people to notice, so they want the new stuff, but not enough so that it kills it all in one fell swoop,
mean-
so that they can't just do it the next time.
How would you guys feel?
They gotta stretch it out.
How would you guys feel instead they came out with? I mean, I guess it's not too different, but in my eyes, I think it's a little different. Every set, because I don't think they're ever going to stop coming out with.
Yeah, we should probably move
pre-cons.
into our solutions for this issue.
I don't think they're ever going to stop making precons every set. But what if instead of they making Commander precons, they made Brawl precons?
That's what they used to do.
Well, then that's when they printed Corvold and Chulane
Right.
and printed really busted cards.
Yeah, that's true. They are busted. But I'm gonna be honest. I think that's like they're kind of like. Okay, I don't want to make them sound like low power, right? I think Corvold has hit a point where it is. Yeah, it is sure it isn't CEDH, but it doesn't mean it needs to be CEDH every day. I think by itself, it is not that strong of a card anymore. It's good. It's good. Okay, people don't get mad. It is a good card, but I don't think it's like wow. This card's broken. It can be broken in many instances, but the card itself is like I've seen cards that are very similar nowadays.
Was
that
it
come
broken
out.
in its pre-constructed deck? Probably not.
I have no idea.
Because I think that's when they went away with MSRP. I don't remember those Brawl decks looking very scary. I just remember reading Chulane and being like,
Yeah, Chulane's
"Are you
really
serious?
good.
Like you're just gonna you're giving him all that and the bottom claws?"
Yeah.
I think Chulane and Corvold are pretty even, neck and neck, as far as power goes. They're both very good, but I think there are cards now that can keep up.
So
for sure, if we're talking about just for Commander.
No, what was the original question?
First of all, are each of you unhappy with the format? Are you more or less happy with the format?
I mean, I'm not like dissatisfied. I think in general, like there's no like because it comes down to your personal opinion. There's no
Right,
fixing it. There's just like what you would prefer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to harp on like the Rule Zero thing, but you can shape it however you want, and that's how a lot of people advertise it to their friends and stuff. You can play literally however you want. That's what gets a lot of people into it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I know you guys were saying like, yeah, maybe a lot of players aren't even that good. There's just constantly new players coming in. So like, yeah, the spirit originally started as a bunch of people just coming together playing some goofy decks, but then other people just got interested in it and were like, whoa, that's kind of cool. We could do this and that. And like certain ideas were added to it. Okay. And then now you have different personalities who, you know, not every single person is like that. Some people played Magic, you know, a lot of people that probably originally started playing Commander probably weren't like the most try-hard people in the world in the first place. They probably were more casual. So then when like super competitive people were like, oh, something different to get into, they saw other cards, you know, maybe their try-hard cards is like, that's their personality. So then they played a Commander deck that's mean. And it's like, oh, that's against the spirit of Commander, you know, like, because you're playing a mean. It's like, they're playing within the rules. It's just, they got more eyes on it now. So there's different people playing the game. And then that's just eventually how it becomes. Like, you cannot prevent that. It's physically impossible to prevent a certain crowd, like a different crowds of people from coming in. And now they're just catering to every crowd. They're just like, everyone can play whatever they want. And that's what's very cool about it. And I like that. So I don't personally mind them printing just tons of different stuff. It is a lot. It's crazy. There's a lot to remember. There's some busted stuff. But I think in general, it is really fun and really cool. And sometimes you like to just play a really powerful card. But you don't have to every game.
I want to ask this before I give my response. Were the Kaldheim or Neon Dynasty Commander decks, were the face of those decks, were they in the set?
No.
None of them.
None of them. No.
Okay, so that is kind of where I have an issue with this product. Again, I even didn't, to be honest, I really didn't even like the old Commander precons from back in the day. Like, I remember I was very upset when they first printed those Planeswalker Commanders. And I don't know why. I was just like, this is just not supposed to be right. It literally says on the bottom, this can be your commander. I'm like, this is not a good move. It just felt icky. I don't know how else to say it. It just didn't feel good. And to what you're saying, absolutely, Adam. I think that it's inevitable. We are not going to be able to stop this freight train of like power creep. Like, especially the way that, or the cadence that WotC is like printing these like cards that are made for the format.
Imagine like showing people back then, when the Planeswalkers were released. Imagine showing them the Neon Dynasty, Azorius, Precon, it's a vehicle that says on the bottom, this can be your commander.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people will be like, "What the hell's a vehicle? And why? What do you mean?"
But yeah, no, it's definitely...
Yeah, but I wanted to say,
Same.
and then I'll pass it to Anthony here.
Are you happy with it? And if not, what would be the biggest change you would make?
I think obviously I'm not happy with it, but I'd rather the face of the decks be cards that were already in the set. I'd rather they build command. Here's what I'll say. I'd rather they take cards from sets, Neon Dynasty, Brothers War, March of the Machine. They take the legendary creatures from those sets, slap them as a face of the commander set, or the commander box, or whatever, the precon, and build the whole deck around that commander for them. Print cards specifically for that commander in those precons. Mizzix's Mastery, right? Like those type of cards. What is Azuri? Azuri's Predation. Stuff like that. Like cards that are made, they're made for the commander. Instead of making up some commander that is literally like so pushed, made for the format. Elish Norn was not made for the format, original Elish Norn, but she's still very good in the format, and I feel like that idea works, and it doesn't need, you don't need to do too much to it. And if Elish Norn was that old Elish Norn, if she was the face of a commander set, or the face of a commander precon, I'd be like, this is kind of interesting. She does this, and then you look into it, and then there's a support for it.
You can also, but you have a lot more opportunities in just design space when you don't limit yourself to being able to have it in standard and commander. I mean, that's definitely their thought process.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, make cards only in the commander precon for commander, but not the face of the deck. I feel like that's where I think the power creep mostly lies. It's in the legendary creatures. It's not in everything else. Outside of like the stuff that says commander on it, like Jewel Lotus.
I had to think about it for a second, but you're probably right. The point that I made towards the beginning, they did not print this frequency of legendary creatures.
Oh no,
oh, absolutely not.
Like
No.
this is, I want to say the 99 has power crept a good amount, but not at all to the level of the difference between that Chulane and the original. I mean, accidental.
Not even close, man. It's not. You can't even say it was an accident.
It's definitely in the legendary creatures the most, and printing things like Commander Legends that has like, I don't even know, 200. It has definitely over 100 legendary creatures. We're all new, and only a couple of them get picked out because they're all so strong that you have to be just slightly above that rate to get chosen.
I want to say this. I like, even Brothers War, right? We were talking about this in the last podcast, how there's like 3 different types of Urzas and they're all legendary. Is the one set, is that the problem? Or even the other day, me and Anthony were playing some games of Commander at our local store. Somebody went to cast Urza's Ruinous Blast. Everything on the battlefield was legendary. Didn't do anything.
Literally didn't take out anything.
Yeah.
Because they printed so many commanders that every
it's
creature
like,
was legendary.
Come on, man. Like, I don't know. Like, harping way back to what we said earlier, people used to play 10 board wipes. Now the board wipe that they printed probably for Commander doesn't even work in Commander because there's that many legendary creatures.
Is Urza's Ruinous Blast from War of the Spark?
It's from Brothers War.
Urza.
No, that's not what that card was printed before Brothers War.
I don't believe so.
Urza's Ruinous Blast?
I don't believe it's an old card.
The one that
I think
exiles all non-legendary permanents?
I thought it destroys.
It's exile.
It's Exiles.
Oh, damn. That's great.
I think it was printed before.
A lot of board wipes nowadays are Exile.
While you're looking that up, I just want to say, like, when I was talking about like the players coming in, whatever, being dumb or whatever, I just mean that doesn't mean that they can't play strong decks or be like, I guess a pilot a strong deck. My point is, like, the cards that they're probably playing that are strong, they're being pushed out. They're the new Doctor Who set. I forget the 2 new like cards that everyone wants from it. It's just being pushed. I guarantee if those cards didn't have in Doctor Who, they wouldn't sell as many cards. It's like, or they wouldn't sell as many sealed. They wouldn't sell if it was just a fun set that just had fun cards. It would sell for sure. But if they didn't have those 2 new staples that are probably going to be in every deck, they probably wouldn't sell. And I mean that, and that it's every set. They put these staple cards in there because it's going to sell. And
Because they want the consumer to be able to buy a $25 collector pack
of course,
and get the new stabilizer.
It's gonna be just enough to like get you to be like, okay, I'll buy a few packs or I'll buy a little bit of it. Like they'll give you kind of like Commander Masters, where it's like there was like all these reprints and stuff, but it's like should I get it? It's like I don't want everything in it, but there's like this card or that. But it's like, oh, then they're reprinting Doubling Season and all these other cards again. But you're like, oh, but there's still these other cards in the set, and it's just like you're like, do I get in it? Do I not? And like it's enough to put you on the border to probably want to invest in it.
I wanted to give Anthony some space to answer your question.
Oh, yeah. Are you happy with the format? What's the biggest change that you would make if not?
I'm always going to be happy with Commander unless they do something drastic that I think changes the way I view Commander. If it keeps constantly power spiking, I will just adjust my decks accordingly. I think the thing you could do to fix it is, I think, similar to what Christos is saying. But I'm also not. I'm not a dreamer or a daydreamer. They're probably always going to come out with these precons. What I do think they could do is the face of the precon could be a legendary creature from the set, and most of the deck could be from the set, like uncommons, commons, a couple rares, and it doesn't have to be that good. All right, I think the face creature maybe should be like a theme, and the alternate creature is also another theme, and you can decide, hey, I kind of like this sub theme, so let me go buy a box of this, and maybe I can get more of these sub theme cards that are from this set, rather than let me go get this $10 or $20 card because that's what that's what the formulaic thing is. It's like, let me go get this one really good rare that comes in the set or whatever to put in the precon, and then let me go get 20 cards from 18 different other sets rather than the set that just came out. Like, if I was a new player, I think me buying a precon and be like, oh, I like this, let me go buy a box, maybe I can pull some of this, right? I'm gonna be honest, like, if they think I'm gonna go buy a box of cards for the one $20 card that I need to upgrade my precon, it's not happening. I'm going to CCU player, I'm buying the one card. But if it's like, I need to change this whole deck around and maybe it's a bunch of new cards, I could buy a box.
Well, here's the thing. You just said it yourself. You said, if I was a new player, I would do this. I guess I have the experience here of being a newer player, and I still probably fall more in line with the way you guys think, but I could also put myself in the shoes of someone who's even newer, and it's just like they're going to buy a deck and just be like, oh, I'm just going to buy a box, so it's the set that goes along with it, and they're just going to get a bunch of cards. They don't think that way. Newer players, especially players that are coming in who are just like, oh, Universes Beyond, oh, I like Lord of the Rings, oh, I like Marvel, I'm going to get into this. They aren't thinking that. Genuinely, they're not thinking that way.
I wanted to say this. I think that Anthony and I, we come from a time where we used to just buy boxes, and we didn't have the resources to look up deck lists or stuff like that before. And so when we went to go buy a box, that's what we had to work with, man. We didn't. We buying singles wasn't even a real big thing back in the day, because buying stuff online didn't really blow up until the late 2000s.
Yeah.
And so you had to go buy box. You had to go to your LGS to go buy the singles. And so now a new player, and I think that your perspective is a little skewed because you do have you have us, right? And we are Adam, don't go buy that box, man. Don't do that. And
Thank God, too.
Yeah, we imagine all the money you've saved just by us saying that, right? But on top of that, how many boxes have you bought, Adam?
A couple, but I don't think I've bought anything for be I'm gonna buy this box to get this card.
Correct, because you're oh, maybe I just wanted to open the box or something. Maybe you just
see
if I pull it, for fun.
Or if you get a really good deal or something.
Yeah, of course, the Amazon drops or all that stuff. So that means that you're buying I would say probably 90% singles.
Yeah.
90%, maybe more. And I think that is a culture that WotC has created by doing this.
Oh, yep.
And I think that for a new player, for a new player with no guidance, absolutely this is a gold mine for WotC. But if you have any semblance of friendship around you in that LGS when you're going to buy that precon, they're going to turn you right away from that stuff. Be that kid's oh man, I really should go buy that Dominaria draft booster. It's like, no, dude. Like, let's go get you some real cards. Let's go buy you some singles. Pay $1 for the shipping. Go buy TCG Direct or something like that. Not that we're sponsored, but like, stuff like that. That's really why I'm so against this. I think that to what Anthony said, I think this it would be way cooler if everything from those boxes came from the sets. Because now, as a player, even as a standard player, I'm like, well, I can just go buy that because it's all in there. I don't have to go buy the booster box because I know what's in the box.
Okay, so that's
good for you. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, I'm actually kind of surprised with Doctor Who, and maybe they're testing it out a little bit now, where the Doctor Who, you could buy all 4 commander decks. That's it. You have the entire set. All the collector's packs is just for variants, right?
I'm kind of surprised by
That's
that
cool.
too.
Because I'm glad that they don't have anything exclusive. You can literally be like, I don't need, like, you're just doing
That's
it for
true.
special art treatments.
I am pretty happy with that. I was surprised, very, very happy with them saying that there are no exclusive, functionally unique cards within the collector packs.
I just want to cut in real quick because you kind of said something that piqued my interest. Would you not, at least for me, I'm a collector. I've stopped doing it just mainly because I think it's kind of silly to collect the full set. But if they came out with like, I don't know, whatever, 2 or 3 precons a set, but if I could buy all those precons and pretty much have the whole set, and maybe whatever, let's say there's missing a couple cards or whatever, but or maybe I can have the full set by buying all 3 precons. I guarantee you I would buy all 3 precons every single set just to have the full set.
But then you have no incentive to buy a box.
You're not happy with packs.
Yeah. Like, it takes away the magic, right? So, I mean,
They don't need to include the full set in the precons, right? I'm being a little, but if you could get a majority of the set and, just a bunch of commons or uncommons or whatever, obviously I
Build your
don't
collection.
Right, exactly. Obviously, I don't know how many rares come to precon, but whatever, there's plenty of rares in every set. Like there's so many rares in every new set now. Rares don't feel rare.
It's
I think we talked about
Yeah,
that,
we
right?
talked
I
about
think
that.
rares don't feel rare anymore, right? So I think they could throw in a bunch of rares in a precon. But precons don't have to be like 2 or 3 colors. They can just be one color. I guarantee you I can make a precon out of the Wilds of Eldraine. I can make a mono green commander deck, and it would actually be solid. Like, it wouldn't be terrible.
Do you think it would sell if they made a precon? Do you think people would buy it?
I think people buy precons regardless. I think we've, not calling out any names, I think we've seen people at our LGS that just play precons because that's what they want to do. If they saw a mono green and they
Honestly,
really
they just walk up to the counter and they ask, "What can I start with?"
that too.
It's like the kind of the
People-
equivalent of like net decking, but for like people that they're like, hey man, can I just play a deck? And they're like, yep, just buy that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I still feel like
I
monocolors
do
is
like
the best
the
to pilot.
idea of the precon being worth your money, but it all being from the set and not having a different set code.
So Adam, why do you? I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Why do you have an issue with what he's saying?
with everything being part of the set in the precon.
Yeah.
Do I personally have an issue with it? No. I think they could make it work. I'm just saying that in general, I feel like they do it because it allows them to kind of mess around and have more fun with certain things. I don't know, like, the logic behind a lot of it, right? I don't know why they're making the decisions they always make. Usually, it's probably monetarily, or like, you know, some of them might just think that's a fun design. That seems cool.
What would sell? You
But
know?
that is like
Yeah.
the biggest thing, and like it's blatantly obvious. Of course they're going to do it because it sells money. Like, it takes away from like opening a pack. And to be honest, if I like bought like a pack of something, and like, I think that would honestly make it even like worse, because if not every card is in like the precons, but a majority of them, it's like I buy it, I'm like, who cares? Like, I literally do not care, because then it would have to be like the collector packs. You're getting a special treatment of it. It would be like CS:GO versus like Valorant. I'm just thinking video games because
Sure.
I'm obviously very familiar with just playing video games, right? People getting skins in CS:GO and unlocking it is just like, you know, you get like an insane amount of like adrenaline. It's like, that's insane, right? Getting like some super nice skin versus Valorant's like, or any other game now, right? So you just pay $20 for skin. Who cares? That's it. Everyone has it. It's just like, it doesn't feel special or rewarding. And like, it's a trading card game. That's like the game is based on that. It's not like a board game where you get every game piece when you buy it. Like, it's still a trading card game. You're still supposed to be buying certain things and getting stuff. Yeah, they have like the starter decks where it's a couple things, but again, it's meant for you to be enticed to purchase it when it has something unique in it. I don't really know. Like, I don't want to like go into circles. So.
I think we just discussed this. Is like most like the rares, even the mythics, they're not rare anymore. It's it's only every time a new set comes out, there's like what Wilds of Eldraine, Beseech the Mirror, Agatha's Cauldron. That's pretty much it, right? I don't think there's any other Moonshako Cavalry, but that's like $15 now. It's like everything. There's only like 2 or 3 cards every set that are actually worth anything anymore.
Well, aren't the rarities technically supposed to not really be power, but how uniquely like how mechanically unique they are?
That's what they've said over the years.
All right,
It's back and forth.
I think I was gonna say we've kind of derailed that.
Yeah, I just wanted to like cut in real quick one more time. So let's just say the 3 precons you can get all the full set, but right. So what you're worried about is the hit, right? The gambling hit, right? Obviously, the bonus sheet is still a thing, right? And obviously, you can't get that would be something you can't get in the precon. So people would still pull for packs if that's what they want to do. They want to get the hit or whatever on the
showcases.
Yeah, the showcases. Then obviously you need to buy the packs to pull that. Or like whatever the Transformers, they put new Transformers or whatever in the new sets, and you can only get them in the whatever slot, and it's that they can still do that. I think I don't think there's any problem with that because I can go to TCG Player right now and buy a whole set if I wanted to. Like I don't think that's the problem. I don't think I think the getting the hits off of cards, that's for people that have like addictions with like opening packs. Like I don't think that's for like the normal person.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. If I could just buy the whole set and they sold it, of course I'd do that. I'd save so much money.
And just and I'm not that I'm getting wizards and ideas, but I think they would sell. That would sell. A lot of people would buy that. Like even
directly
people
from
that
wizards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People wouldn't even that don't like. I never really thought about collecting a set, but if I go to Walmart and or your local game store, but I'm just trying to think more realistically, right? If you're just in the store and you see all 3 precons, why not? I'll just have the full set.
But here's the other thing, right? Like Wilds of Eldraine, I'm trying to think of like how much a full set would cost just for one of every copy.
It's not that much. It really isn't.
So how much would you say, like rough estimate? $300-$400?
How many cards are in it? Like
there's
400.
If you're just getting one copy of each, no like variants or anything.
Yeah, if you're getting one of each, I know the uncommon and commons were it was
it's
like
maybe
around
the price of a couple boxes.
It was like $20 for like all the commons and uncommons.
I mean, he put it into perspective because you're probably right. I would buy a half case of 3 boxes of old sets, and I wouldn't even get all the cards.
Whoa! When we opened all those Wilds of Eldraine collector boxes, there were actually cards we didn't even pull at all.
We opened 24?
Yeah, 24.
24 collector boxes of Wilds of Eldraine. There was a couple uncommons. We did not see a single.
It was like the printing sheets or something,
crazy.
which
Up
is
the
wild.
beanstalk that we only got
up the
2
beanstalk. We got 2 up the beanstalk,
was Stroke
Stroke
of
of
Midnight,
Midnight.
which is
that
the
only
best
got,
uncommon
2 or
in
3
the
or
set.
4.
But there's just some like weird ones you didn't see, and like they're probably like not worth anything. But like I'm just saying, because then you think about it, you could just buy 4 sets of the entire set, one of each card, and you'd be set.
They
You wouldn't need
definitely
anything
seed
else.
it even more than just the rarity.
They know. Listen, like I don't think it's proven or they never admitted it. However, I've said this as a joke, but I kind of mean it at the same time. They know what cards are going to... When they put a card out, they know it's going to be worth something, right? So, it's like...
When they put Beseech the Mirror out, it's definitely more
when you
rare
print
than
Jeweled
other
Lotus,
mythics.
it turns out...
Oh, it's more mythic than other mythics. Yeah,
Exactly. And just like Up the Beanstalk. And I feel like with the uncommons and commons, it's not like anything new. Like, well, I'll compare it to Fatal Push, right? As someone who tried to pull for those cards, those Fatal Pushes, it always seemed like it was such a lower rarity than other uncommons, and I think they did it on purpose. I'm gonna be honest, right?
Oh,
it's like
1000%.
it's like oh man, I'll just buy a packet. It's an uncommon slot. I got like 4 chances to hit it or whatever, and it's like you never do. So it's.
I had a little idea I wanted to pitch to you guys because I was just curious because I know me and Anthony talk about just legendary creatures that like because Anthony's a lore junkie, so he really likes the lore of Magic.
I do. I love it.
So he has like cards. He's like, man, I really wish I could build a commander deck around it, but it's just not good enough. Why not? I'd rather they go back and just like take those old creatures and make decks out of them. Like, give them support, make new cards for them.
That might be interesting.
I'd be so like, what's that one that the
Making
Gorgon
a
lady or
precon
whatever?
for an old.
Oh my gosh.
Fresco?
No.
It's a Glissa.
Yeah, right.
So there's 3 Glissas, and one of them is like unplayable. One of them is
I
like
think there's 4. I think there's a mono green, then there's the Golgari one, and then there's 2 of them in the new set.
so. Which one? Wait, for start to put it on screen. Which one is the one that you want? To tell me?
Any of the new ones. It doesn't matter. Just the new ones. God, I can't think of the set.
Phyrexia all we won?
Phyrexia all be one. No, March of the Machine, Glissa. Okay.
Sure, it doesn't matter. It's
So if
just
they
just
went
one of the
back
new
and
ones.
made a
You know what the new
a
cards look
Precon?
like, Star. Just the point is, I love her lore because she challenged Vorinclex, which if you know any lore of Vorinclex is you don't challenge Vorinclex. She challenged Vorinclex for dominance. She wanted to take over. I'm gonna be honest.
That's pretty badass.
Her cards ain't competing with Vorinclex cards. If you look at every Vorinclex card, they're pretty good. All of them. Even like the worst one, which grabs you 2 forests, is actually still pretty good.
Yeah,
when
that
he
flip
flips.
is-
Yeah,
that
that
flip's kinda
flip
crazy.
is insane. Yeah, and then he comes in. Even if you don't, even with the unflip side, he comes in. He grabs you 2 forests. So your next 2 turns, you're gonna hit your land, or if you have extra landfall, he's just good.
to guarantee his ability.
He's a 6-drop 6/6 with what, reach and trample.
He's a 5-drop 6/6 trample.
Oh,
reach.
I'm sorry. 5
Grab
drop
2
6/6.
forests.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
he's really good. And if you look all the Glissas, there's only one Glissa that's like a combo Glissa, and it's like, yeah, well, that's not what I'm looking to play.
So just to like encompass this idea,
Yes.
because of my conversation with Anthony, I was like, yeah, that would be really cool if he had that opportunity. Man, I don't know about you, but like if they went back and like gave some old creatures some time in the light, like just to like highlight them, because like some creatures, like especially with how many legendaries there are now, just give some of them like a little more time in the sun. Like give them a precon deck, give them an opportunity to be in the spotlight, build around them, give them cards, give them support. If you're gonna be this heavy-handed about it, I'd rather they just like don't be like coy about it. Just go all or nothing. I'd rather they do that, because I feel like now what they're doing is they're just throwing us like little bones, and like occasionally it's just like a steak. It's just like, here's Jeweled Lotus, and it's like, cool, great. It goes in every deck.
Well, they kind of, and maybe
Jeweled
they're.
Lotus goes in like 99% of decks.
That's no, not inherently.
No, not inherently. But
not
if
every deck.
if your commander has a 2 or a 3 in that in the commander cost, and is probably 1 to 2 colors, maybe 3, even 3 colors probably. Yeah,
I run in my Nekusar.
yeah. It goes in a lot of decks. Let's be honest, but like it definitely doesn't. It definitely doesn't hurt to throw it in a deck, even if it's just like a one. If you're, what's that guy that costs 0?
I don't.
Roga.
Rugrack or Rongrack.
Yeah, I'd run it in that too.
Yeah.
Look,
Why
how
wouldn't
many times is he gonna die? Yeah.
Yeah,
You
Just use it for his partner.
No, well, the thing is, like,
Oh, don't even get me started on partners. Don't even get me started.
no.
Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that.
Oh, come on. Partner's not that bad.
Dude, go ahead. Just go. I'm already pissed just thinking about it.
No, I don't want to like harp on this too much, because I feel like talking about Jeweled Lotus is its own thing, and you're definitely.
Oh,
not
I'm gonna just give you a word vomit.
All I want to
awful.
say is, should have been printed. Probably not. However, I will say any monocolor deck that's, if it's 3 or more mana, sure, you put it in the deck, no doubt. Any other color, if you have 2 colorless and then 2 pips, fine, use it. But it's a money thing, right? Like you can't throw it in every deck because it's an expensive card. I'm just saying, like, that also gives them the incentive to be like, for players to like work towards like, wow, I can't wait to get that card to put in my deck. It'll be so sick. Like having a chase card like that for players is also like something they like, because it keeps them engaged and be
Wait. I want to give the audience what they want to hear. I want to hear your thoughts on Jeweled Lotus. Give it to me.
I think Jeweled Lotus is an absolute abomination to the format. I think it is against the spirit of the game.
When it was revealed, people were flipping out.
Yeah, there were people on both sides being like, "Holy cow, this is the best
Listen,
thing ever." had."
if I was a CDH guy, I'd be jazzed. But I'm no longer that part of that crowd. I don't play that way anymore. I don't want to. I want to have fun with my games. I feel like, and you could say whatever you want about what define fun, whatever. I just want to be able to sit around with you guys and like play games that go long. I feel like if I'm playing my Perforos deck and I purposely don't play it in that deck.
Do you have it in the deck?
No, I'm saying
No.
if I did, that's all I really need to say.
I mean, it would be a better deck. I think straight up playing Jeweled Lotus,
It would
and if
win a
it's
turn
effective for
earlier.
your commander, it like almost kicks you up 1 to 2 power levels. But you have to get the card. It's still one of the 99.
The deck still has to be good. All it does is it accelerates your good deck. That's what it does. Because
But
it doesn't
people-
make a deck good.
People aren't playing Jeweled Lotus in bad decks.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, you would be surprised.
You'd be
No,
really
you're
surprised.
wrong. Yeah, that's what I was going to
So
say.
are you saying that the store that we go to, people are playing Jeweled Lotus in those decks?
Yeah.
It could be.
I'm
We
sure
could
they are. I'm sure some of them
Was
are.
it printed in a precon?
No.
No, it was
No.
Commander
Commander Legends.
Yeah.
It was like one of the really.
It was in Masters too, right?
Yeah, they reprinted
Yeah, they
it.
reprinted it, yeah.
Okay, for anybody that has a problem with me saying any of this stuff, fight me. I don't care.
Nope.
In the comments.
No, I'll fight you too, because it's... I
Oh, you
I
like-
also don't have the card, but
you like Jeweled Lotus.
I would buy a playset of it if I was a CEDH player that went to tournaments. I would, but I'm not. So I think it's an abomination of a card. I think the people that use those level of cards, again, the whole idea of what I said before about cutting formats and making it a whole separate format. I think those people, they're thirsty for some legacy.
Yeah,
They want to go play Legacy, so go play Legacy.
Yeah, but that almost kind of answers your question, and you're not going to like what I'm about to say.
Oh, Adam,
But-
be careful, brother.
it makes... Remember... Okay, yeah. Obviously, if someone's using some new pushed card, they can use Jeweled Lotus just fine. It makes that card even better. But you can use it in an older deck for cards that might just be, like, outdated, right? You could use Jeweled Lotus.
You're telling me Gishath?
you can make...
You're telling me Gishath is like, oh, that's easy. Easy.
Oh, you're already playing green.
Oh, bleh. Yeah.
I won't disagree there. I mean, I don't think having Jeweled Lotus and Gishath is going to make it any different. If you're already playing like the best mana dorks or whatever, you're good.
I disagree
Like,
entirely.
yeah,
Your opponent should have some
all right.
removal.
You get it 3 turns early.
Sure. Listen,
Oh yeah. Oh.
I think Jeweled Lotus would be. I think it'd still be strong, but I think it would be a little more fair if it was just colorless mana. If it was
Here's
3 colorless, just for your
Yes,
commander,
yeah.
I think it would be a lot better.
Okay.
no.
That would probably be better.
But like even Mana Vault exists, and I don't even know if I even ever had an issue with Mana Vault or Mana Crypt. I don't think I ever had issues with those cards. But I think it's because there's like an actual drawback.
Right.
A Grim Monolith, same thing. Like cards with actual drawback. This card has no drawback, and it can recur itself.
What's wrong? Okay, all I'm saying is what's wrong with having just a really fucking strong card, bro? What's wrong with it? It's a fun, strong
It's
card.
not about the
You're
strength.
just saying
It's
that
about
because
the-
you like using it. You
Oh, I
like
love using it, bro.
You like pushing out your Nekusar on a curve where he shouldn't be out.
Why not, man?
Because the cards are designed in a certain way where they're supposed to come out on turn 5. That's why they have 5 mana pips.
And Jeweled Lotus like ignores that. It's
if
like
you
a
want
cheat
to, if you want to play a card on any turn, play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Bro, that you know that like literally cards in Magic are meant to like break the game. That's what they do, dude.
No, that's actually
Listen,
false.
I have no problem, man. I have no problems with people wanting to play Legacy.
People break.
Go play Legacy. Go play Legacy.
People
You
break
roll
the game.
0 it, man. You say no Jeweled Lotus, take it to
Yeah.
Jeweled Lotus.
Okay. Every time I play with you from now on, Adam, I don't want to see it ever again.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's crazy. This is the whole thing about the Rule 0, or even before, right? Even before when you started talking about the Rule 0, that right there, it doesn't work.
Well, here
Rule 0 is a myth created by idiots. I'm telling you that right now.
Well, Rule 0 actually like there's plenty of like if you start okay, I guess if you're like, oh, I'm gonna play like Perforos, I'd be like, well, if I wasn't play like
My
fast
rule
mana
0
stuff-
is that you can't play Perforos.
Oh, the only deck I brought. Oh, that's too bad. I already signed up for the tournament.
well, tournament,
Rule
tournament, you gotta
0
play, man.
Rule 0 only works like for us. Like we know each other. We
Yeah,
know
of
each other's
course.
decks. We know their power levels.
Mm-hmm.
So when we Rule 0 something, we can come to an actual like Rule 0. But if I Rule 0, which I mean we did at the LGS,
Yeah,
we
we-
Rule
yeah,
0'd.
yeah.
I explained my deck. I explained how it won. I literally told them how I win, and they were like, "Okay." And I didn't even struggle. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't struggle. Like they.
And now
So
same.
explain. What exactly did you do?
Okay, so we sat down. The guy told me his commander. I'm thinking, he didn't explain to me that he was playing the precon until after we started the game. I saw he was playing the very mean Sauron, the one that basically it has the ward sacrifice legendary from. So I'm like, okay, this guy's a sweat because I see the commander. That's all I see. He showed me his commander. I'm like, okay, he's a sweat. The person sitting across from me is playing a mono red combo commander. So I'm like, this person's a sweat. And the person sitting to the left of me is playing Carter. So I'm like, this person's trolling. And
I take offense to that.
okay.
All right.
And the only reason I said that is because none of us are playing combat decks. So this guy's going to get no value. All right. So if I was playing Carter and I seen 3 commanders that are not doing any combat, I'd probably be like, oh, I'm not going to play this commander because I'm not going to get any value. But anyway, I'm like, okay, I'm playing Muldrotha. I'm playing Primal Surge. I play Primal Surge at 10 mana. I win the game. And
Did anybody ask?
well, no, because everyone apparently knew what Primal Surge was, or supposedly.
Or so you thought, yeah.
Yeah, or supposedly they didn't. I have no idea.
Which again, rule zeroing. He's explaining what happens. No one's asking questions. Is it a matter of social ineptitude? People being too nervous to talk to people that they don't know, or they don't want to cross a line. There's a lot of factors there that make rule zero absolutely impossible to enforce.
Well, it's much more vague when you play with random people because you can't sit down and really go in depth with it because you're just about to shuffle up and play.
Okay. I'm going to defend or myself. Actually, I explained how my deck won, right? But the person sitting across from me, like, I knew their commander is a mono red combo commander, but I was like, this person seems new. Maybe they don't know what they're doing. And then around turn 8, they're literally comboing off. They're about to hit an infinite. Thank God I had a precaution for that, so I could win the next turn. But no one at the table, the other 2 players, had no idea what they were trying to do or what they were trying to pull off. I knew what they were trying to do just because I know what that commander. Like, you only play that commander for 2 reasons: either to combo off or for infinite combats. And other than that, you don't play the commander. So I was. Then they tried to do that, but they didn't explain that at the start. They just says, "Oh, I'm just having fun." Well, you know what I'm saying?
Because they just want to win their packs, bro.
And maybe that is their version of fun. So I can't fault them for that. But rule zero is what my whole point. Going on this 10, you can't just go to a table of people and expect rule zero to work. As rule zero only works with us. Like, we know each other. We've played with each other
because we've also defined.
Yeah.
What when I say this is a 7, you probably don't agree with me.
Yeah.
But when I say this is a 7, it's a 7. But you guys understand what I mean when I say that.
Exactly.
Now, same night, I'm at a different table, same experience, right? I rule zero, and this is the store that we go to, right? There's always like people running around with precons and stuff. So I try to play like a lower power deck, generally speaking. So I get into the pod. I sit down. I say, guys, I'm playing Perforos at the helm. I'm playing mono red goblins. It's goblin tribal, so a lot of goblins. Everyone agrees it's okay. I get into the game. I went on turn 4. Very quick. I had a really crazy hand. Really quick start. Right after the game, one of my opponents goes over to Anthony's table and just starts talking mad shit about how I was like lying to them.
Well, you do run Ancient Tomb. I know you don't. I don't think you said you had it, but that's fast mana. You want to talk about?
Okay.
Fast mana?
Hold on. I'm gonna defend Ancient Tomb right now. Okay. What
that it deals 2 damage?
No. Nope. That's not what I'm gonna say. His deck would have won. Even if he played. Let's say he didn't play Ancient Tomb and he played Crystal Vein, which is Ancient Tomb, but you sacrifice it and it doesn't deal 2 damage to you. But that gives you just the burst you need to take off with his deck. So if he got out his Perforos early, he doesn't need that extra 2 mana the next turn. He just needs like 1 or 2 red, and then he plays his like 7 goblins or whatever.
Shield Lotus would have been the same
Crystal
thing.
Vein's $3. Anyone can put that in their deck. All right, I can make the most use out of it because I'm playing Muldrotha, by the way. But anyway, I'm just saying, it's like there's alternate cards. Like if that's what you want to do, like if you want to just make your deck strong, there's alternates without paying a bunch of money. So money's not the barrier. All right, it's all in the power. Like I could make a $100 deck that can beat other CDH decks. All right, I don't. Well, why would I want to go to a table at a LGS and just like, oh, it's $100 deck, not say that I can win on turn 3? Like, I'm just going to win turn 3.
That's the other thing too. Is like I even told them like, guys, I don't play any infinites in any deck.
Yeah.
I still don't.
Yeah.
And like I'm disclosing all of the information possible. I'm telling them I'm playing a very high like goblin heavy. Like if you don't understand that, please let me know. Like I go above and beyond. I do. I know I do. And you know I do.
Yes,
right.
They're just being courteous, and they're just being like, "Oh yeah, cool, whatever." Like they're not actually like taking it in. But maybe some of them are, but like some people, especially if they're using precons and stuff, they're like they might even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, oh, okay. They just get a reality check of like, oh, you're saying, because to them they'll be like, wow, that was like 8 or 9. And you'll be like, no, you just don't understand how garbage your deck is.
Oh, well,
Like,
but
that's what the whole idea. But why we started talking about this,
Yeah.
why we explained the scenario. Rule 0 does not work. It doesn't work outside of your friend group.
The
Period.
rare time that it did was the last time we went to the card shop where we had an actual experienced player, and we said what we were playing, and he brought out something, and that was like that was the closest.
We got
game.
so lucky because we were in the same
Oh
pod.
my God.
We got so lucky.
That was the closest game that we ever had at that store, and it
we
was
played
a good game.
We played 3 games. All of them were very competitive.
Yep,
and it's
nothing
because
was one-sided.
and it's because the guy that we were playing with, once Anthony and I both explained our decks,
Mhm.
he was like, okay, I think this should match it, and it did.
And it did.
I was like, oh my god.
Yep.
And that's why I turned around, I'm like, come here, play with us, because like when you find those people, it's about building like your own community amongst those people. Now I'm not saying, and now I'm gonna kind of take a turn away from the Rule 0 thing, but I'm not saying Rule 0 is inherently not possible, but I do think that as an idea, I think it is thrown around way too much, and I don't think it works in theory the way people explain it. I think that what you should do, what Commander is about, going back to the spirit of Commander, it's about building a community of people that play the same way you do and that have like the same rule set. And you guys are all on the same page and understanding that, like, guys, we're going to all be playing like 7s, 8s maybe, and just like enjoying that sort of play. And same goes for CDH. But if you're going to go to an LGS where there's sanctioned tournament play and you're going to just like do what Anthony explained and just say, oh, it's just, I'm playing budget, man. I'm playing $100 pre-con upgrade. But secretly you're playing like 10 tutors because you're in black and you're just tutoring like infinite combos that make you win the game on the spot. That's going to feel real bad for the player that's there that just bought like the newest pre-con and is sitting down for the first time. I think that is, in my eyes, killing Commander as a format and spiritually.
But some people just enjoy playing that way.
Go find groups to play that way.
There's nothing wrong with playing that way.
Yeah.
I think, and
Okay. Basically, what you're trying to say is be honest about what you're doing.
I don't know.
Because it's okay no matter how you want to play.
I don't think the honesty is the thing. I don't think people are like I mean, I'm sure there's people that purposefully like, oh yeah, my deck's weak. I think some people just they think their deck is actually weak compared to because they might have faced something that was way stronger, and they're like, wow, my deck isn't that strong.
It is such a complex format because
Anything's possible.
anything like you could walk in and to a game store and half the people have just bought their decks and half the people have spent $10,000 on their decks.
Yeah.
I mean, a good example is like when you see a commander, you're like, okay, the last time I played that commander, it was like this.
Oh, that's exactly what happened to me when I went and I was playing.
Kali.
The one dude was playing Kali of the Vest. I was like, last time I played against this, I just know you cheat out really mean stuff.
Mhm.
And
Quickly.
so one dude was playing like a precon that he upgraded himself, and another dude was playing the Commander Masters Planeswalker deck straight out of the box. And I was like, I mean, I'm gonna focus on this guy a little bit because I'm presuming he's got some good stuff in his deck, so I'm gonna focus a little bit on him. And then like we got stuck in a battle, and then the other two guys kind of just like. The one guy, unfortunately, I don't even know what he was doing. His deck was probably worse than the Precon
Yeah.
itself. But then the Precon dude with the the Commander Masters one, he just took over the game. Like, you can still win even if it's like, oh, that deck's not even that good. Like, it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It was Christos and I were literally just talking about this just real quick. It was a 5-man game, or this 5-man pod, and Christos was definitely the arch enemy, and but it was funny because everyone was ignoring the Precon player, who they were playing Aegis and Nev, and they had Rampaging Baloths. So every time and then it was the other card. So every time they made a token, they actually made it a Rampaging Baloth. But then they got 2 copies of Rampaging Baloth every landfall trigger.
Oh my god!
So I think they had like 8 Rampaging Baloths, and I was like, its Precon has hit its Precon power spike. It had 15 lands, I was just like,
I've reached the final form.
Yeah, it's like, every
all 5 pieces of Exodia.
Every Precon, when it hits 15 lands, it's finally time to power spike. It's becoming useful because, the mana curve is terrible.
I think that with everything that we've said so far, the spirit of Commander is really what you make it. when everybody's on the same page, playing the same game and having a good time, that's where the spirit of Commander comes out. I think it's still possible nowadays. We know it's still possible because we still keep playing it. We wouldn't keep playing this game if we didn't enjoy it. Was it different back then? Yes. I want to say that I'm a little unhappy with where it's been going, but it's not gone. And no matter what Wizards of the Coast does, no matter what Hasbro does, no matter how the game changes, I think that I'm still going to enjoy my time with the people around me and just messing around with cardboard. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm still here to stay.
Yeah, you know, I think I like what you said about how, like, I think that our conversation kind of brought you that answer, right? I think as long as you're all on the same page, Commander is really still there as spiritually. But I agree. I think, no matter what WotC does and whatever, it's all about, like, the rule zero amongst your friends, I guess, so that, like, you guys can actually talk and have a conversation about establishing what rule zero means to your group. But I think that this, like, sanctioned tournament play and stuff, I feel like that is, like, unless you're explicitly saying CEDH,
It gets a little muddy.
It does get a little muddy. It does. And, I mean, we've all seen it firsthand. I think that
I think you should just enjoy it with friends.
just try your best to enjoy it, and maybe WotC, please stop printing precons, please. It's just ruining my experience.
There's too many. Oh my, please.
Honestly, if you're out there and you enjoy like really high level play, just try, and you and your friends just try and make $50 budget decks. Take out the Soul Ring. It's honestly, it's fun. It's like a nice pace to the game. You guys aren't sweating to kill each other because you literally can't. Not in the first at least 6 turns. You probably guys.
Our $50 game day was good.
They're
today?
good.
Oh, that was
They're
good.
fun. They're
fun.
amazing. It's like it's like our first few turns we're just sitting there just shooting the shit. It's really It's just,
Yeah.
It gives you time. That's the thing. It honestly it reminded me of like when the Nekusar precon. Not that it was the face of the precon, but when the Nekusar precon came out, and I first bought that Mael precon, and I was playing with like whatever other precons were at the time with like my 3 friends. We were there for like 3 hours, and we were like 20 HP. Like nothing had changed, and like the board wipes happening left and right, and that's kind of what it reminded me of today. Granted, a little bit different because out of nowhere I just got hit for like 56 and died. But like
Kuros Boldens, baby, check out the deck tech.
Yeah, but I'm fine with it, man. Like I think that like again, it's just about rule zero. That's all amongst your friends.
Yeah.
If you have any closing thoughts, Adam, we're gonna get this wrapped up.
I mean, you're just talking about the budget deck tech. I think I want to make a budget deck tech in my Volo deck. That thing slabs, baby. That deck is so good. I was playing that against like other people's decks. Is like my other deck's kind of high power. I'll just do this. It was holding strong. So
Watch out for that. I want to thank our patrons of this episode. All of you, thank you very much. If you want to become a patron, if you want to help us out, go ahead and check out cardboardcrashcourse.com. You can also see other ways to watch this podcast. If it might be easier for you on another platform, go and have it and give us a like and 5 stars on everything that you possibly can. It helps out a lot. Thank you very much, guys, and have a great, great rest of your day. Bye-bye.